You probably ask yourself why you don't see most black people doing amazing things in movies that we see Peop doing. And at times you also ask yourself why aren't things advertised to black people even though they are the major consumers, as in they're the ones that buy all these products, but they are not advertised to black people in the first place. Why is that? Too ghetto and too poor. That's what Peop say. People that have worked in Peop dominated firms confirm this. The unfair thing is that black people are the ones that do consume all these things. And the other thing is, have you noticed that whenever you post a video on TikTok or any other social media platform, but especially TikTok, you don't get a lot of views if that video has to do with your culture or if it has to do with you showing off your natural hair. In today's video, we're going to talk about media bias and some things that you should be familiar with if you're black. Things that make your life hard when it's not supposed to. And this sister asks, is this how it's going to be for the rest of her life? You tell us by leaving your thoughts in the comment section and also provide solutions to some of these phenomenons. If you're feeling generous to do so, that is.
I don't know about y'all, but I am sick and fucking tired of everything in this world being dictated by what white people think and how they feel. Because how are you going to tell me that black women are the #1 consumers of most things, but businesses and marketing teams don't market to black women because they think black women are ghetto, nasty, nappy-headed hoes who have 3, 4, 5 baby daddies, and they think that marketing to black women diminishes their image as a brand? The same black women that are putting money in their pockets. And I'm not making it up. I finally saw a black creator last night who works in marketing say the quiet part out loud. These businesses don't market to us because they think that the average black person is ghetto and fucking poor. And on the flip side, the ones that do market to black women have little to no black people working for them, or the black people that do work for them, they treat like it. The reason why we don't get black leads in films is because white people feel like they cannot relate to black characters. The story could literally have nothing to do with race. Simply just put a black girl on the screen as the romantic lead, and it takes white people out. White people only associate black people with their struggle, which is why when they put black characters on screen simply just existing, white people feel like they can't relate, because white people do not see us as human beings. They do not see us as multifaceted, multidimensional human beings. That's why we don't get black leads. Monoracial, non-racially ambiguous, non-light-skinned, Afrocentric featured black women. Or when we do get cast as romantic leads like Francesca, who's playing Juliet in the West End production of Romeo and Juliet, the vitriol that I have seen that girl receive actually disgusts me. The amount of people that I've seen compare that girl to a man, compare her to an animal, or just straight up say that they think she's ugly. Why the do you think that you feel that way? Because white people have convinced everyone in the world that monoracial, Afrocentric features are unattractive. How is it that black women are one of the most educated group of people in this country, yet almost across every single field they are paid less than their non-black counterparts, people who they're most likely more educated than? I saw this video a couple months ago by this creator. I don't know her name, but if you know Clark and follow Clark, who I love, she's made a couple of videos with her. She's really light-skinned. She wears her hair in like this straight bob, and I remember coming across a video of hers where she was replying to a comment that was asking her why she has stopped her natural hair journey, because apparently she had been wearing her hair natural, working on her curls, things like that. And her response basically was that she noticed that her engagement went down and that TikTok wasn't pushing her videos as much since she started wearing her natural curls out. And that, honestly, that was probably the first time where I saw something that actually made me feel discouraged, because I never would have thought that something as simple as how my hair grows out of my head could be the reason why my content isn't getting pushed and why I don't have as much engagement as other content creators who are doing something similar to what I'm doing. It's just so infuriating to think of how much is stacked against black women that we know and that we don't know about. And for me, it's like, am I expected to do this for the rest of my life? Because I know I am not going to spend the rest of my life trying to prove to white people that I'm the good black, that I am not this inflated stereotype of a black person that they refuse to let go of. Non-black women will never know how dehumanizing it is for at every turn to be told how unrelatable you are, how undesirable you are, how unmarketable you are, how un-everything you are on a daily basis. And what's even more insane, they hate us, but they love to imitate us because they love everything about black women on non-black bodies. I don't know, y'all. I just feel like this conversation around pay discrepancy between black creators and non-black creators is just like really getting to me, because for me it's like, how long do we have to fight this fight? I know we cannot be expected to fight this fight for the rest of our lives because I'm already exhausted. All these barriers, all these obstacles, not because I'm a bad person, not because I have a bad character, not because I've done bad things, but because I'm Black. Like, are we being so real? Honestly, it becomes more and more insane to me every fucking day.
If you're wondering if anti-Blackness is still alive and well in 2024, you only need to realize one thing, that everything trendy, anything colloquial is based on Black culture. And yet there's still very few Black people on marketing teams. Who knows better about the trends that came from Black culture than Black people? Additionally, a lot of white people and other non-Black people realize this. They know this. They know that words, style, music, anything that's trendy, pretty much, comes from Black culture. And yet they still want to make all these marketing decisions, all these, oh, let's make something trendy and let's hop on this trend without acknowledging that publicly that, yeah, it comes from Black culture. So let's have Black people work on it, because why would we, a non-Black people, work on something that it doesn't come from our culture that we don't know firsthand about? Because there's still massive bias against Black people. And yes, I know the original creator was not talking entirely about that, but I wanted to hop on and make this point.
No, but for real, let's talk about it. The video I stitched is a great video that talks about the experience of Black women waking up in a world that seems to hate them and want to throw obstacles at them every day, and having to decide every day to get up and try and live a normal life, let alone have dreams and hopes and aspirations for yourself. And I personally want life to be easier for Black women, but if life can't be easier, I would love for people to be able to acknowledge how exceptional Black women who have risen to power and prominence despite all of these obstacles every day are. One of my favorite quotes is by Stacey Abrams, and it says, "My being a Black woman is not a deficit, it is a strength, because I could not be where I am had I not overcome so many other barriers, which means I'm relentless, I'm persistent, and I'm smart." And that is absolutely true. Black women who have risen to those positions, who have become, the first Black vice president, the first Black Supreme Court justice, the first Black female Supreme Court justice, people that have done things like that, they are exceptional. So they have gotten accepted into the best schools in the country, and they have gotten 1 or 2 or 3 degrees in their area, and they've had long and distinguished careers, and they've beaten professional misconduct allegations at every level. They've kept their finances clean, stayed out of trouble with the IRS, stayed out of legal trouble that would disqualify them from doing any of those things. So they're not just like your regular type people. Like, they weren't just given a pass that a lot of people with power and connections are. Like, they fought for everything that they have, and also on top of that, woke up every single day to a world that just or undervalues them or devalues them, and they said, "You know what I'd like to do today? I'd like to go be great." So if there is one thing that I wish, in addition to Black women's lives just being easier in general, I wish that when those Black women got to those positions, like when they were the first, when they did it the best, when they break the records, that people could acknowledge it, be like, "Oh my gosh, as a Black woman, she did that. That must mean she's exceptional." So I just, wish they could get the roses,
So this is a really good post. It's a really good example of, in my opinion, the consequences of living in, an era of where colonialism is reaching its peak. Now, I say this with all kinds of respect and dignity. Yeah, we probably will have to fight this fight for the rest of our lives. I hate to tell you, I really hate to break this to you, because right now we are all fighting for the wrong things. We are fighting for civil liberties and, political standing, and right there. Let me tell you something. The reason why Martin Luther King said that he led his people into a burning building that had no windows and no doors is because he was talking about the fact that when we were enslaved, I don't care where you are in the world at this point, any part of the Black diaspora, when we were enslaved, because believe it or not, I'm quite sure we were taken from many more parts than West Africa. How did you even get there? We're not going to get it. But anyway, when they enslaved us all as Black folk, they stripped us of our title of humans. So what does that mean? They stripped us of our humanity. They made us objects. They turned us into toys, gardening tools. They turned us into construction workers. Anything that is not of human nature, they turned us into. And so when you're talking about the fact that you're very surprised that just the way that our hair grows out of our head is going to bring down the views that we have and that we receive as, content creators and things like that, of course. I'm not laughing at you. I'm really not laughing at your pain. Trust me, I'm not. I'm laughing because as Black people, what am I supposed to do? Cry about it? The fact is that when we continue to have these little tit-tats and, whatever battles over who's Black enough and, who's got culture and whatever, we're only proving the point that they have in their minds, that we're not human. We have got to work together to get the label for humanity restored for us, because believe it or not, all these violations of our human rights and shit, not just for Black people, for everybody, but mostly for Black people, all of it really stems from colonialism. If you really want to go back and do your research. Now here's the problem. I think a little too much and I connect the dots very easily. So I can tell you all right now that because of colonialism and its reign and the Atlantic slave trade, this is where we stand, people. This is why reparations are so crucial. And when I'm talking about reparations, people need to understand that we cannot do this divided. We cannot ask for reparations for one nation and then exclude the other, because we as Black people were dropped off from the same boat in multiple places. I don't care where you are in the world. If you have Black descent and it's clearly that you are Black, because at this point, being ambiguous, you kind of have some kind of leeway here and you have some privilege. But I'm talking about those who are unambiguously Black here. Our ancestors literally got dropped off the same boat. And so we are supposed to be fighting for reparations for all of us, for one, because we're supposed to be fighting to restore our human rights. Because they stripped us of our humanity in their eyes, which is why they never seem to think of us as anything less than a tool. We really have to get out of our own way and start thinking about the larger scale of things, because I love the 1619 Project. It was excellent. But Nicole Hannah-Jones did not do us any favors by separating us when she had that interview question from the audience. It was a beautiful young lady somewhere from Africa, and I cannot remember for the life of me. But long story short, she said that we're not considered African, and we are our own culture. Never in history of ever have I ever seen any other culture do this. Even if, for example, someone of Asian descent does not know all the traditional values that are instilled in that culture, they do not say that they're not Asian. They do not subscribe to making some new, Asian American culture. Well, we are American. It's not that I'm not American. I know where the fuck I was born. I didn't have a choice in that. And neither did my ancestors, sadly. What I'm saying is when you tried to separate us by saying that we are no longer connected to the African diaspora in some way, shape, or form, you separated us all from being able to get the reparations that we so desperately need to actually have the title of humanity restored upon us after it was taken from us unjustly. Look, I say this with love. We are going to have to fight for the rest of our lives, most likely, for our human rights, because right now they are being violated. And I know that I've made a video talking about this, another stitch. I will have to redo that. But the whole point is that until we start fighting for human rights as Black people all across the diaspora, and honestly, with the help of other people who are now facing the same thing that we are, because if you want to believe it or not, slavery has a lot to do with the way that they are treating us as humans and they're making us be products. Think about it. People, they strip the whole race of people from their humanity. Do you think that they give a about you? Let's be honest here. This is a whole political game, and we sadly are little pawns that they use to get to where they want to go. So if we want to stop really having to fight this fight, we're going to have to start the fight. To fight for fucking human rights. Oh gosh.
And in case you're not familiar with this is what's happening online, especially on TikTok. Some videos are not getting the views that they deserve simply because you are a black content creator. And even AI is being biased against black people, and we're going to discuss that in a few. But the first thing that I want to address in this video is the solidarity among us black people all over the world that we do not show to one another. Simply because this person comes from another ethnic background, simply because this is another tribe, simply because of this and that. Like those excuses that we give ourselves when we don't want to be in solidarity with another black person. Those are the excuses that are really offensive in today's video. Like that's the pain that we should be discussing more. Reparations are not going to be paid to a divided constituency or a divided congregation. Like if black people are divided all over the world and we do not support each other's causes, if we're just supporting palm color causes and other minority group causes, that is the reason we are having this discussion, such as those watermelon people saying that black people should not vote for Kamala Harris, or saying that black people should do this and that. You know why? Because they've observed that the majority of people that rally behind them are actually black people, and whenever black people rally behind their causes, everything happens that they want. But when it comes to everything that black people want to happen in their own communities or in our own communities, we are often not there, like to rally behind each other's causes. Why? I don't really know. Perhaps it's the indoctrination as well as media representation that has indoctrinated us not to be able to support one another. Now let's talk about some backlash that black actors and actresses have received for playing certain roles in movies. I'm talking about Halle Bailey. Now a significant portion of the criticism was rooted in Art to the Assist when she played the role of the Little Mermaid. Some people were upset because Halle Bailey, a black actress, did not match the original animated character's appearance, who was depicted as a palm-colored woman with red hair. Now, this reaction highlighted ongoing issues with Art to the Assist and racial prejudice, as well as a resistance to seeing characters traditionally portrayed as palm-colored being reimagined with actors of color. So you're saying that it's okay for palm-coloreds to play roles that are intended for black people, but it's not okay for the vice versa. Like, this is an entitlement that palm-coloreds are upholding even now in the modern age, even though it's more obvious than ever. Now, the other thing is that many fans of the original 1989 animated film had a strong attachment to the character of Ariel as they remembered her. For some, any deviation from the original portrayal was seen as a negative change regardless of the reasons behind it. But you also told me whether you found this portrayal of the Little Mermaid as a black woman offensive, because to be honest, I actually didn't. I found it enjoyable that way. In fact, I don't think it really matters because she was a sea creature after all. Now, the casting of Halle Bailey was a significant step towards greater representation in media. While this was celebrated by many, it also faced resistance from those who were uncomfortable with changes to established characters and narratives. But it's so funny that people were so upset for a fictional character such as Ariel, but they don't do the same for Jesus being whitewashed. The other thing is that some critics argued that the casting was an attempt by Disney to be politically correct or to push a particular agenda. They felt that the choice was more about making a statement than about finding the best actress out there to play the role. But you tell me, like I said. Now, the other thing that I want to point to is technology being biased towards black people, particularly AI. Now, AI systems used for facial recognition have been found to misidentify black faces at a much higher rate than palm color faces. Now, this is largely because the data sets used to train the systems often lack diversity, leading to inaccuracies and biases. For example, a study conducted by Joe Bolamiani revealed that commercial facial analysis tools had higher error rates for darker-skinned individuals. And I also want to point out that it is this facial recognition system that does detect on TikTok that you're a black content creator, hence doesn't push your video to the audience. Now, AI tools designed to detect hate speech have also shown bias. Research from the University of Washington found that the tools were more likely to flag tweets written in African American vernacular English as offensive, even if they were not. Now, this indicates a bias in how these systems interpret language when it's used in black black communities. The other thing is that AI systems used in hiring and lending decisions have also been shown to be discriminatory against black applicants. For instance, a class action lawsuit was filed against the Navy Federal Credit Union, alleging that their AI systems systemically discriminated against minority borrowers. Similarly, AI-powered recruitment platforms have been found also to reflect and reinforce anti-black biases. Google's hate speech detecting AI, for example, has been found to disproportionately target black users, flagging their content as abusive more frequently than similar content from palm color users. And I guess that's what we had for you in today's discussion. Now, I also want to point out that that's one of the reasons as to why we need our own businesses and platforms as black folks. We need to innovate and come up with initiatives that are gonna safeguard our own interests. Because if we don't, this is gonna continuously happen. Now, with that being said, you leave your thoughts in the comment section and tell me what you found interesting in our discussion today. I'll see you in the next video. Please like, share, and subscribe.